And they wanted to take a look at the policy failures behind the war. This started in 2014, they decided to do this. And the purpose at that point was they thought the war was winding down.
And by the end of next year, our war in Afghanistan will be over.
It's all ready for record.
University, and I had did a lot for years in Afghanistan, so I was quite well known.
If you're going to use a quote from me, could you run it by me?
But little did they know, the war was going to keep dragging on. In a way, these interviews are incredibly timely. There are people looking back at what went wrong, but they're still talking to the problems that exist now that still haven't been resolved, and why the war is still going on, and why the United States can't get out of it. Well, I told my editors, I said, these documents are something that first haven't seen the light of day. They were supposed to be using these interviews to publish their own report. So SIGAR, starting in 2017, started publishing some reports every once in a while, but there were these big, thick, doorstop government reports with a lot of charts and numbers, and only a few quotes from the interviews they did.
Now, the goal of today's report is to help U.S., Afghan, and other coalition policymakers and agencies as they prepare for that daunting task of assisting with the reintegration of
the Inspector General himself, a guy named John Sopko. At one point, I went to meet with him to tell him why I thought this information should be public, and we've already filed Freedom of Information Act requests. What's the problem? This is noteworthy, this is newsworthy, the public should know about this. And he agreed, even this guy who's the head of this agency who's resisting giving us the documents, he says that the documents show the American people were lied to.
A military full of executives that are either in it for careerism, or they're in it for ideological reasons, or they're just corrupt. Now, not every single person is like that. We can't do a complete broad stroke and say that every general, every admiral is like that. But enough of them are that we end up staying in these wars to either fix the hearts and minds of countries that have no interest in being fixed. They didn't ask for it. Or they're in there for personal and career gain. And I think that's what you've seen over the past 17, 18 years of this war on, quote unquote, war on terror in Afghanistan.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask you, because you were still in 18 years ago when we got, I assume, you were still in the military at that point, or probably just a baby. But do you remember us going to Afghanistan? How was it sold to the military that this is worth you possibly going over and sacrificing your life?
Because people that sign up and take and swear the oath of office, they take an oath to do what they're told. Mm-hmm. We fight and we train to fight, and then we assume that the people that are in charge would not put us in harm's way for ignorant reasons. But I'm here to tell you, once you get out, especially in this day and age, you can sit back and you can look at the decisions that are being made strategically. Tactically, a lot of the decisions are, when we're looking at simple fights, we say, okay, they made the right tactical decisions. These guys are meat eaters. They go in, they do amazing jobs. But strategically, the people that are making strategic decisions are not operators. Those are the men that are giving their life on the ground. Those who are making strategic decisions are the ones that are failing those people as they go in. And a lot of these people realize that when they get out. Some of them are realizing it and getting out, though, in this day and age.
Over $1 trillion spent in Afghanistan by some accounts. I want to read some choice quotes here, which is one was, it was common at military headquarters in Kabul and at the White House to distort statistics to make it appear the United States was winning the war when that was not the case.
Unbelievable.
And they also discuss how the Obama administration, a person identified as a national security official, said there was constant pressure from the Obama White House and the Pentagon to produce figures to show a troop surge of 2009 was working, despite hard evidence to the contrary. Even when casualty counts and other figures looked bad, quote, the White House and Pentagon would spin them to the point of absurdity, saying that suicide bombings showed that the Taliban was on the run, that the fact that more U.S. troops were dying showed that we were putting pressure on the enemy as opposed to before. Two administrations, this basically cuts off around 2018, 2 administrations, the same lies, the same, sliding toward where we are right now over what, 17 years in Afghanistan since 9/11 occurred. And nothing has changed. And it's you have the generals. These are people I covered. I started out covering the Afghan war, who are speaking on the record to this inspector general.
Right.
They never thought their comments would come out.
In the Washington Post.
The generals who lead this are saying, yeah, we had no plan. We had no idea what we were doing.
Listen to this quote from Douglas Lute, a 3-star Army general who served as the White House's Afghan war czar during both the Bush and Obama administrations. He said, "What are we trying to do here? We didn't have the foggiest notion of what we were undertaking. We were devoid of a fundamental understanding of Afghanistan. We didn't know what we were doing."
Yeah.
That's what the people who were leading this effort were saying privately, thinking these words would never come out. Meanwhile, the public faces, oh, we're making progress, we're building, human rights, we're doing all this great work, we're rebuilding, we're training the police, we're making inroads. And to your point about, we see these stories about suicide bombings, which you continue to see. This was a sign that the Taliban was desperate, right? That was the spin on it. And what really happens here, it just goes to show, look, start out with this limited mission. You go in, but the minute that the military-industrial complex gets
a lot of money.
one finger hold on a country, on a place, on an engagement like Afghanistan, you will never get out because people are making so much money hand over fist in these conflicts. And once that money machine starts, forget about it.
It is a story about money, and it's a story about greed and corruption. And it just goes to show you, they don't care that over 2,000 U.S. troops died in Afghanistan. 20,000 were wounded. I personally know some of these people who were wounded in Afghanistan. And they will tell you the same thing. For what?